It's time now for our press review, and as we have been hearing already this morning, millions of Argentinians will be heading to the polls this Sunday to elect a new president. Leo McGuinn is here now in studio with us for more on that story. What exactly have the local papers been saying, Leo?
As you say, Sharon, millions of Argentinians are going to flock to the polls on Sunday for that runoff vote between Sergio Massa and Javier Milei. And the country's two biggest newspapers have very differing articles this morning. I'll start with La Nación, which is the country's second biggest newspaper. They slam Sergio Massa, who's, of course, the country's Minister for Economy, and he's overseen an unprecedented financial crisis which sees inflation at 140%. This piece calls for the judicial system to investigate accusations against Massa for embezzlement of state funds to help his campaign. They say that the use and abuse is plain for everybody to see, and that he's brazenly insisting on using taxpayers' money to fund his campaign. They accuse Massa of camouflaging electoral messages in government acts. Now, if we go to another newspaper, the Buenos Aires Herald, which is the country's biggest English language newspaper, they have a very different piece. This time it's on Javier Milei, of course, Massa's opponent. This editorial piece says that a Milei government would pose a grave threat to democracy in the country, noting that he's advocated for the withdrawal of the state as a guarantor for basic rights such as healthcare and education. This article also heavily critical of Milei's plan of dollarization. They say that would lead the country to lose sovereignty and push millions more into poverty, while also increasing social tensions. Continues to remark on a human level, there's a deep concern, accusing Milei of emboldening the most dangerous elements of the far right, resulting in attacks on minorities, demonisation of the poor, and an institutionalisation of hate speech.
Turning now to the Middle East, Leo, there's been a damning report from the Committee to Protect Journalists.
Yeah, you can see this in the Arab News, which is a Saudi publication, with the headline there, Gaza war is taking a shocking toll on journalists. So this comes from the CPJ, and they say it's been the deadliest months for journalists since the organisation started recording fatalities back in 1992. 42 journalists have been killed since October the 7th. That's 37 Palestinians, 4 Israelis and 1 Lebanese. That's the official number, but some say that number could be much, much higher. So the deadliest year for journalists was 2009, when 76 journalists were killed. And this article notes that if the current trend continues, 2023 is going to absolutely smash that number. According to this piece, the death of those Palestinian journalists demonstrates that simply existing in Gaza at the moment is incredibly risky, as many of them died in Israeli airstrikes. Journalists, they say, in Gaza play a crucial role in ensuring that Palestinian voices are heard outside of the Strip, because foreign journalists can't get in. They've been blocked by Israel and Egypt, and they can't get in unless they are entrenched with Israeli soldiers. So they say this plays a vital role as providing information that governments may want to stifle. So many journalists, they say, bravely confront risks in order to bring information from the Strip to the outside world.
And staying with the war, Leo, there's been a viral TikTok trend that's been causing controversy over the last few days.
Yeah, a viral TikTok trend revolving around this man, as you can see in the Washington Post this morning, Osama bin Laden. So a 2-decade-old letter from the former al-Qaeda leader has gone viral over the last few days, gaining traction amidst the current conflict in Gaza. It revolves around his so-called letter to America, which was published after the 9/11 attacks, in which he justified the actions, citing the US support of Israel in Palestine. Thousands of videos have been published in reaction, some saying that their eyes have been opened to history that they never knew. The hashtag Letter to America has accrued more than 10 million views before it was blocked on TikTok. Many critics say that they worry that TikTok's users are being radicalized, and some others say that it's proof that the Chinese-owned app is secretly boosting propaganda to the American youth. This article says that it shows how efforts to suppress such information can backfire, because the letter was actually on the Guardian website for 2 decades before the Guardian took it down after recent increase in views. But after that, the views just went up and up, because people want to see what they can't, according to this article. And this piece also points out that these reactions are an example of fast-paced culture. It just focuses on snippets. For example, none of the videos take into account context, other parts of the letter, such as the homophobic and anti-Semitic comments that take place in the rest of bin Laden's letter. And the White House have even commented on the situation. They say there's never a justification for spreading repugnant, evil and anti-Semitic lies.
On a much lighter note, Leo, you're leaving us with a story about a particular species of snail that's been causing a major headache here in France. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'll show you an article from 20 Minutes en France this morning, and it's about that little fella. He's a Quimper snail, which is a very rare snail, indigenous to the northwest of France as well as part of northern Spain. And the problem is, when trying to lay out a new tram line in Brest in France, authorities found that it was impossible to avoid the little snail colonies as such. So, because they're a protected species, they're going to have to do it one by one. So in the first operation last week, they managed to remove 92 snails, and workers have set up traps to prevent the animals from coming back to the construction site. But it's certainly going to be a slow progress for the workers. They're moving forward at a snail's pace. But the good news is that the construction will be completed eventually. So all's well that ends shall.
Thank you, Leo. That's Leo McGuinn joining us there with our press review.